Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today is Karen Sigmon Smith of WellQ, of a Legacy Federal Credit Union. Randy, dude, where you been hiding, man?
You know, I've been hanging out here at the east wing of my palatial estate, and I dare say the weather is gorgeous outside. So as soon as I get done here, I'm going to head out and go for a walk. So that's what I've been up to.
I got you. One of these days, you and I are going to get together.
I think we should.
I heard a rumor that you were right down the street from my house.
I kind of am. I kind of am.
You were. What I heard was you were traipsing in my neighborhood.
Oh, okay. You didn't see me there, so I wasn't there.
I didn't see it. I just heard a rumor. So
hey, we got a great show lined up today, folks. By the way, if you're joining us, feel free to let us know where you're watching us from. Teddy's going to monitor the chat box, and health is probably more in the news these days than it was 50 years ago, 40, 30, 20, whatever. And so there's more than just health when you think, okay, I'm going to look like Schwarzenegger or whatever. Or Jack LaLanne. Teddy, I know you can remember Jack LaLanne quite well.
Schwarzenegger of the 70s or Schwarzeneggers of the 20s?
The 60s. All I remember is that dude could work out with a chair and he could lean against the desk, and he lived to be like 800 years old. So he's Methuselah's younger brother. But yeah, all good stuff. Karen Sigmon Smith joins us. Karen, you help us kind of decipher a little here. We're going to introduce ourselves in a little more detail. I'll introduce you, but the whole tie-in, WellQ, a legacy, and how the marriage came together and what we're here to talk about. But I'll introduce myself and then throw it to Teddy, and then back to me, and I'll introduce you, and we'll get started. But Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries, Northwest North Carolina, and director for our professional center. We've helped a lot of folks over the years, and we continue to do that, whether you're employed and looking, or unemployed and looking, either way. So just reach out. We're free. Find me on LinkedIn, and we do work by appointment. So just let us know how we can be of help to you. And one of the things that I look forward to every week is this lunch show. We get to learn about interesting topics that maybe we otherwise may not get a chance to really investigate. So we'll cover more about that in just a moment. But Teddy, for the handful of people who don't know who you are, shame on them, first off. But secondly, let us know who you are.
I mean, golly day, all you got to do is Google Teddy Burris, RISS, and learn all about me. Hey, folks, I love doing this, lunch conversations with my buddy Randy and myself. But my day job is I'm a business strategist, teaching business professionals how to use LinkedIn as a business tool. And I just discovered that one of my peers from West Palm Beach showed up today, finally checking us out here. So Debbie, thanks for showing up. At the end of the day, LinkedIn's a business tool, and I have the pleasure of teaching people how to use it as such. So, Randy, good to see you, buddy. Introduce our special guest, man.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm fiddling with LinkedIn, and I just got done fiddling, so I'm ready to roll. Karen,
I told you when I hired you that if you kept fiddling, I'd go get myself someone else to do the show, and she's on here too.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like he's already identified your replacement, Randy.
Uh-oh. Karen Smith joins us. Karen, you and I chatted a few months ago about our topic today, and it deals with wellness. And so we'll cover that in more detail. What does wellness mean? How can industries get proactively involved to help keep us healthy versus, okay, we have a nice insurance plan in case you get real sick, which is great to have that. But on the front end, what can we do, and what's the latest and greatest out there? And WellQ certainly, while it's not a commercial for WellQ, it's not a commercial for a legacy. Obviously, you work there. So please introduce yourself and what your role is with WellQ and how that ties in with a legacy, and then we'll dive into our topic.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for having me, Randy.
Yeah.
WellQ is a very innovative model, but speaking more of my background and how I ended up here, as you mentioned, health and wellness is a much bigger topic and wider platform now than it ever has been. And I've been in the health and wellness field for about 27 years now. And my passion is developing programs and doing program planning to help people live better, basically. And health and wellness is so much more than just one dimensional. So my passion is holistic health. And there was a Dolly Parton song a long time ago that said, I was country before country was cool. Well, I was into holistic wellness before holistic wellness was cool. And now there's so much more than just physical health that we have to address, especially with the pandemic in the recent history. But so I have done a ton in the health and wellness field in the past. And a lot of what I've done is help companies develop programs to help their employees be well. And so in one of those programs that I helped develop, over 10 years now, was at a legacy federal credit union. And, it's kind of funny how life comes full circle, because that was over 10 years ago. A legacies program was very well developed. There was a team of folks working on that led to lots of rewards from a legacy, saying how well, one of the healthiest employers, et cetera. And so the passion of a legacy to deliver well-being to not only their employees, but also their members in the community is what led to WellQ. So they established WellQ about 3 years ago. And the goal is to provide physical and financial wellness to the community at large. And so it's basically an extension of their phenomenal employee wellness program to the rest of us outside of those four walls. And that's how WellQ came about. And so my role is the managing director of WellQ. And we are what's called a QSO, which is a credit union service organization. So a legacy owns WellQ, but it's also at the same time somewhat of a separate entity, because of course, if you walk in the front door at WellQ, I am not going to be able to give you any money, but I can sure take care of you. So that's what we're here for.
So Karen, Chris threw out this question: can you differentiate wellness from health?
Absolutely. Wellness is multidimensional. And wellness addresses all things from physical health, social, emotional, mental, your spiritual health, and your financial wellness. And so, and the financial wellness piece has also become a really big passion of mine, especially through the pandemic and seeing how so many people are suffering. And the employers, actually, there is a niche for employers to help folks address that and help them be better employees, to live better, and help the employer have a better bottom line even. And so when we all work together, we can actually reach that apex that we're striving for.
Hey, I'm an old radio jock, and I used to work in country music, and I can tell you that was Barbara Mandrell.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. Thanks for correcting me. Not Dolly Parton. Sorry, Dolly.
Okay, and yeah, all that. Oh, that was a whole lifetime ago for me.
It was.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey,
Do you still have her album, Randy?
To watch their TV show, the Mandrell sisters. Remember they had Erlene and was it Louise and Barbara Mandrell?
My dad didn't tell me about that stuff, Randy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, my dad was into hee-haw. Now that I'm older, I understand why. It's just, I thought it was about the music, but I digress. I got to ask you, I always ask the why question, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, but from a personal standpoint, if you would, please share the why. Was there a single episode or a series of events maybe that made it clear to you that this is where you need to be, this kind of work?
Yeah, actually, growing up, my father had diabetes that was very poorly managed, and him being fairly uneducated, didn't take very good care of himself, and just the lack of compassionate people to help him understand his situation and help him understand how he could function somewhat normally, even with that disease, really broke my heart, even at a young age. And he was in construction, and, the employer didn't address his health or wellness in any aspect. And as I've grown up and learned, we spend so much time at work. If we can count on our employer to really be an advocate and a support, much more than just, us getting the job done and them giving us a paycheck. That's how I ended up where I am, is helping us all see how we can work together.
So that's something from your childhood kind of lit lit that fire and said, this is kind of what I want to be up to. By the way, I know you're too shy or bashful to mention it, so I'll go ahead and mention it for you. You were recently recognized by Triad Business Journal as a 2021 Outstanding Woman in Business. So congrats to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, well deserved, and so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with WellQ and such. And as far as a program goes, we want to dive into a few topics, and you gave us a few. And I love statistics. I don't know why I love them, but I just do. And you mentioned money is one of the top stresses for it's actually the top stressor for 8 out of 10 Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's 4 out of 5, Teddy. I was a math major.
Oh, is that?
Well, I was a media major, but
Yeah, 8 out of 10 is more.
8's bigger than 4. Okay, I'll go with you. So that's even greater than 80%. But let's just say that 8 out of 10 people find money to be the major stressor. So let's dissect that a little bit. I don't know that you're here to talk about how they get there, but maybe how can they alleviate that? Or do you want to touch on both? Well, let's talk about money as a big, big stressor.
Yeah, and it is a big stressor. You're exactly right. A lot of times we think about, our jobs themselves cause us stress, family issues, of course, health issues, but money issues and concerns over finances trump all of those things. It's something that people don't talk about. We like to say, because we work on the financial wellness side and the physical wellness side, it's been said for a long time, but we've certainly proven it to be true here at WellQ as well. And that is that people are more apt to get naked, if you will, in a physician's office than they are with a financial advisor or, a financial coach.
I tried that. I tried that. And
you teed that up for him, Karen. You just dropped it right on his desk.
I did that, and I've got a restraining order as a going away gift. So I won't do that with my financial advisor, but I get your point. And the whole thing is that we feel like a doctor can fix something where we may feel hopeless as it relates to money. We feel like a doctor can give us a pill or, wave a magic wand, and I'll feel better. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm projecting. That's how I would look at it.
No, you're exactly right. And that's why the model at WellQ, we're more about prevention and wellness and figuring out holistically what you can do to heal yourself, whether that's with, lifestyle changes or whatnot. But with finances, it's even more so. People are, they take that so much to heart, and it's so personal, and it's such a big deal. I'm not going to tell you what I make, and I'm not going to tell you how much money I have in my savings account. And I'm not advocating that people necessarily need to do that. But I think if employers and us as a society can make speaking about finances a little bit more acceptable, and sort of create a culture of financial wellness, I really think that would help us all support each other more. Because if you have a job and you get a paycheck, that's great. But if you don't know how to manage the day-to-day, manage your day-to-day operations, prepare for healthcare expenses, prepare for that wedding, sending your child to college, retirement, you're only doing so much. You're constantly going to be living paycheck to paycheck and struggling, and none of us want that. So I think it's just like with other aspects of physical wellness, for example. There's lots of resources out there. There's lots of tools. But if we don't help each other understand how to utilize those tools to our benefit, they just kind of go to waste. I like to say it's kind of like, you're giving someone a fishing rod, but not teaching them how to use it, then they're not going to be able to feed themselves. So, I really feel like there's so much opportunity in the wellness field with all of the dimensions, including finances, that we really need to address.
Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, Teddy.
One of the things that I learned years ago, and I'm still trying to get better at it, is that if money is such a big source of stress and we're trying to alleviate stress, it's not like we can go out and get another bucket of money that can help solve the problem, but we better, in a relationship, that would be including me and my boss/wife, in a relationship, we need to be open to talking about what is causing this stress and what can we do collectively to resolve it. So which is why I never go out and buy a motorcycle without first telling her I'm going to do it ever again.
Right.
Good point. Yeah. And I can think back to, I mean, I got out of college in 19, and I think I was making 11 grand a year, maybe 10. I don't know. College graduate making 10 grand a year. And you talk about money stress. After a couple of years, got married. A couple of years later, started having, a family, and as the, quote unquote primary breadwinner, there ain't a whole lot of bread going around at 10 grand a year. Maybe I bumped up to 12 at the time, but point being, money was a huge stress. And then being in radio, your job security is not there unless you're under a contract and whatever. So there was always the threat of, hey, you know what, if things don't go well, you're out of a job, see you later. And so I can remember days and not that I lost a lot of sleep, but I'm thinking, wait a minute, if life is this tough financially now in my early 20s, what's it going to be like as the kids start to get older and college and just all the, mortgage and all of those things. So, and I think back and golly, it would have been great had I had something like what you have available for folks. If for no other reason, then it would have shown me that I'm not alone. Number one.
Yeah. We
see that a lot with job hunters, Teddy. I know, like they think it's fault. They're the only one that's out of a job. They'll never find a job. And they feel that lack of hope. And I think something that you may not have mentioned it, but something I picked up from what you said, Karen, was hope and give people a plan. Yeah, here's the fishing rod, but you know what? Let me show you how to use it, because if you're like me, I didn't know how to use it when I started. So let me show you how to do this so that you can provide for yourselves and feel better about that whole process. Am I off base with that at all? Anything in there?
No, you're exactly right. And there's that saying a lot of folks say, yep. do you live to work or do you work to live? Well, it's the same kind of thing with finances. We want to manage our money, not let our money manage us. And to your point, when there's only a little to go around, that is dictating, do you pay your rent? Do you travel? Do you get that medication that you need? We don't want that to be the case. We want to help people take whatever amount it is they make. And I will tell you that in all the research, not just the folks making $10 to $15 an hour that report finances being a stress, the folks that are with six-figure salaries are also over 50% of them report being stressed about finances. So it's not necessarily the size of the bucket. It's what you do with that bucket and how well you know how to manage it and use it to your benefit.
We actually had a chat at Goodwill just here this week and late last week about that, as I described to my other compadres at Goodwill, the nature of what we do with the professional center. And I said, hey, look, if you're making $10 an hour, you're spending 12. If you're making 100, you're spending 100 and a quarter. And by the time you get to be like a lot of our clients, meaning in their 40s and older, typically, now you're staring down the barrel of kids going to college. You've got mortgage, you've got other financial, maybe caring for elderly folks, parents. And so the financial stressors are still there. You're just adding another decimal point, another digit to the side of the decimal point. Yeah. But the challenge is real, and it's still there regardless of what you're making. You mentioned about health and financial well-being being intrinsically linked, and you've kind of touched on some of that. You care to dive in any more, especially from the health perspective?
Yeah, sure. You had mentioned before about people saying that they're not really prepared for surprises financially. Well, a lot of the surprises that happen financially are healthcare expenses, unfortunately. And, over half of Americans right now say that, they would have a difficult time paying a healthcare bill, for example, of just $400. And I don't mean to belittle that just $400, but it doesn't take much to accrue a healthcare bill of $400, as you know. And so, it's this vicious cycle that if you're worried about your money, you're very stressed. Chances are that you cope with that in unhealthy ways, whether that be drink alcohol, stay on the couch, smoke, eat unhealthy, whatever. So then the flip side of that is you're doing damage physically to yourself, which is going to incur more healthcare bills. So it's this, it's this vicious cycle. And we also know that, it's right around 30% of Americans who say that they either postpone or completely put off healthcare visits or treatments because they don't have the money to pay for it. And that can include, filling a prescription, something as simple as that. And so the two are very much related. Also, medical debt is the number one source of personal bankruptcy in the US. So they definitely go together. And so our goal is to kind of address both and help people prepare on both sides, and to, feel that sense of well-being and have a culture of wellness that is multidimensional, because one without the other just is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if there are any comments in the chat box, Teddy, or not.
Don asked a question that's I'll bring it up now. And it says, how can a company measure the impact? Look at, how can we look at the, not only personally, but from a business perspective, the impact of, wellness on our team?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And again, in my mind, wellness is multidimensional, and you can address multiple dimensions of wellness through things like, health risk assessments. You're very familiar with those, and you can do pre and post to see kind of the results of that. We also like to do lots of survey and analysis that's more qualitative, where people help us understand, at point A, before you engaged with our employee wellness program, for example, did you feel like you could handle challenges and navigating financial or healthcare surprises, for example, at home or at work? How much is the stress that you're bringing to the?
I think we lost our feed from the deep in the heart of WellQ.
Job impacting your productivity.
There she is.
And then as an employer,
you're back.
Am I back?
You're back. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just saying that, with pre and post assessments, we can analyze, how people have improved from the beginning of an employee wellness program to some point later on. But
Karen's internet is problematic. And Don was, we'll see if Karen comes back.
The other piece of it is, guys, a lot of the employers.
Hey, Karen, you're breaking up. But he was really looking at how can you measure the impact on productivity and profitability. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, it's a two-pronged approach. You've got to first measure the wellness in lots of different ways of your team. And then at the same time, look at productivity and profitability. And then at another time, you look at the wellness and you look at the productivity and profitability, and you could see trends over time of how they align. That's what I think I'm hearing you say.
And I'll throw a third variable in there as well. And that is, are your employees incurring lower expenses on the sickness side of it? Is your health, for the health insurance and such, or the claims being reduced? So there are a lot of variables at play there. Glad to have you back, by the way. And if your internet keeps crapping out on us, then maybe drop off and jump back in. Teddy, would that?
Yeah, two things, Karen. One is if you have Netflix and all those other things running, you might want to turn whatever else you have all on off. But right now we seem to be doing pretty good. Worst case scenario, if you drop out, just jump back in.
Well, that's what's funny is I never lost you guys. I'm seeing the same thing I've been seeing. But anyway, you're exactly right with Teddy, how you explain measuring the productivity and that kind of thing. And I will tell you that the employers that I've worked with in the past 25 years that have established a comprehensive wellness program that's multidimensional tell me, and we have proof, evidence-based, that one, it decreases absenteeism, it decreases turnover, it improves employee morale, and it improves productivity. Because you can imagine, if somebody doesn't have that financial stress or that stress about healthcare, maybe they missed a preventive screening, or maybe they've been diagnosed with something and they bring that to work, their productivity is down. They're very distracted. But when that's not the case, or when there are resources on the job to help them cope with that, the impact is incredible.
And all of this, the way we feel, the way we look, the way we act, the way we talk, impacted by, our health and financial wellness, that shows up in interviewing. That shows up in networking. That shows up in lots of different ways when you're in job search. So whether you have a job or you are on this journey to find a new job, this whole conversation is extremely important. Randy?
Well, just going to say, if to follow up on that, if somebody is unemployed, so this is not going to be an employer provided service because they don't have a job right now. But are there resources? Is WellQ? Are there other WellQs out there essentially that somebody who's unemployed might be able to take advantage of without being employed somewhere yet?
That's a great question, Randy. And at WellQ, we certainly work with a lot of companies that provide these benefits to their employees, but we also welcome individuals and families into our fold and certainly provide all of these benefits to them as well. But I think one of the things that I would encourage job seekers, one of the things that I really feel very strongly about is in an interview process, find out what type of wellness benefits they provide. Because I really think if you can gauge how much that company believes in their employees, invests in their employees, not just financially, but invest the time, allows them the time to go to these appointments, whether it be with a wellness coach or a financial coach. That's very important. And so to me, that speaks volumes. And it also shows, that's a company that understands that somebody who is holistically well is going to be a better employee. And so then that job seeker is ideally not going to be searching for another job 5 years from now because they're going to have found a place that really cares and wants them to integrate well.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder just, because Big Brother is out there and somebody's probably watching and listening to this right now and taking notes to know how many beers Teddy drinks, how many apple pies Randy eats and everything else and all the calories and all of that stuff. So I have privacy questions or concerns here for you. And I know you're not a legal analyst, so I'm not going to put you on the spot there, but I guess a concern that companies might have or an employee might have is, what if I choose not to take advantage of this stuff? Am I going to be looked upon as not a team player? They've got records of every time I go to my doctor or I take time off work to go to my, preventive care kind of thing. And so the whole, because with the internet, there's privacy issues out there, and that may be something people wonder about is I don't want my employer messing with my health kind of thing. So help put my mind at ease a little bit there.
Yes, that's very valid, Randy. We hear that a lot. And a lot of times people will fear that, for example, even if they participate in wellness coaching that seems somewhat, non-invasive and harmless, they feel like, are those notes and the things that I share going to show up in my medical record, which is then somehow going to get back to my employer, which is then going to impact my premiums. And luckily we have the HIPAA situation with healthcare where we are, protected. The government makes sure that individuals are protected, that we're not sharing that stuff. So even if an employer provides some of these wellness benefits, the employee is protected against the employer knowing too much. So for example, with the employers that I work with, what they get from me and my team is a summary report that will tell them, this is the baseline. Like, for example, all of your employees, the average blood pressure was this at point A. After this programming, it ended up at this at point B, that kind of thing. It's not saying Randy Wooden had, really high cholesterol and he refused to go for a walk in Teddy's neighborhood or, eat a healthy meal versus going to fast food. So therefore his cholesterol is even higher. They don't hear that. It's not that. And so I agree, there are some people that are concerned about the privacy, but there are regulations in place that protect that. And of course, there are repercussions if an employer holds that against you. If an employer does, not even just discharge you, but hold it against you, either that you don't participate or that your biometric values, for example, don't improve. They can't do that. But employers that really care want that information for a whole nother reason.
Yeah.
I know we at Goodwill, and this program is no longer, I think as of a year or two ago, it went away, but we had a thing at Goodwill, and I'm sure I'm not, divulging any deep company secrets here, but basically, you to qualify for their what I'll call preferred insurance rate.
Mhm.
So you had two tiers, tier A and B, but and you didn't have to meet a threshold of a certain level of healthiness. All you had to do was make sure that you had a physical.
Yeah.
And that the doctor doing the physical then would submit that information. So it's kind of along that same line. It's a physical to me is a proactive way to try to catch stuff before things go off the rails. So it's kind of, it may not be as intensive as what you're doing, but I think where companies incent people to get a physical and have certain things checked in that physical, I think that's a step in the right direction. But it sounds like you guys are taking this to a whole other level in terms of the depth of the services and so forth. So, again, I commend Goodwill for what they're doing with that, and also with what you guys are up to. It's I don't know, it's pretty cool. And you know what? You stole my thunder, Karen. You divulged a bunch of data. Teddy, I didn't even handwrite it this time. I actually printed it off. Aren't you proud of me?
Whoa, Randy, you're using technology?
I figured out how to use a printer. I mean, it's only been like 60 years, but so I'm on it. But you did mention about the $400 bill, and that goes back to this whole savings and the finance and so forth. Teddy, I know we're about
give me a minute, Randy, before you guys go further.
Yeah.
So it's 12:31, 12:32. You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today is Karen Sigmon Smith with WellQ, which is a QSO credit union service organization of a legacy federal credit union. Randy, back to you, buddy.
All right, let me pivot here a little bit. This was not on the talking notes, but it's impacted everybody's lives, and it's COVID. And it's still going on, and without getting into a political debate and a health whatever. All right, so forget all that. But I guess the whole thing of COVID hit, how has that impacted? You take this wherever you want to go. How has that impacted employers and their interest in doing more to keep people healthy? How has that impacted workers of saying, "Ooh, I better do a little bit more. This COVID thing's some serious stuff." Let's dive into that. How has COVID impacted the whole health scene and the wellness scene?
Well, I hope you have a good, couple of days for us to have that discussion, because there's certainly a lot of factors there.
Handwritten notes. Hang on.
And in so many ways, but it's perfectly in line with what we're talking about, Randy, because and something else that I like to point out is, if people are job seekers, and also, folks that work in HR or maybe have a small business, I like to see companies that provide well care versus sick care. Well, COVID has really turned that upside down. It's a little difficult to be well and provide well care when we're so focused on, preventing this crazy virus that's going around. But I really believe that organizations that hardwire a culture of wellness have greater employee satisfaction and less turnover, but also, a more robust bottom line for the employer. And I think that has come to light a lot more through COVID than ever before. And so, it behooves the employer to protect their employees. And I know that individuals don't like some of the stipulations that are in place, and they don't like that if they have, try not to cough while you're at work because they're going to assume you have COVID, or if I go get a COVID test just to be safe, but then I have to quarantine for 2 days, until I get the results or whatnot. People are so hesitant for that. But, employers have to protect that because as we know, it spreads so quickly. But also, I think that really speaks to the fact that the more you have a culture of wellness and the more that you establish those wellness benefits with your employees before something like COVID hits, the better off you are. But the shift that we've seen during COVID is that more employers are, maybe not in the last month or two, but prior to that, it was more about, let's make sure we're checking your temperature before you come in the building. Let's make sure you fill out this survey every day to let us know, if you've had any of these symptoms or if you've been exposed to anyone who has, versus providing those biometric screenings, like checking your cholesterol, your A1C, providing wellness coaching or financial coaching, it shifted. And so I really have seen that for some companies, getting back to that wellness focus has been difficult. And I think it was just about the time we all felt like we could literally and not so much breathe again, that, the numbers started creeping up. And so companies are now sort of almost back to square one. What are we going to do now? And so I think this has shown us that at the workplace, we have to be ingrained and have a strong foundation of wellness in order to help us handle and navigate things like this that come up, because COVID, it's not the first and it won't be the last, maybe in my lifetime, and I hope it is, but it, it's going to happen again.
Is there another tentacle to this whole thing is the legal stuff that goes on. And I don't know whether organizations like WellQ and others, similar ones, offer guidance to companies in terms of regulatory, you might like to do this, but you can't do it legally. Or if you're not doing this, you probably ought to be in compliance.
Right.
Is there guidance offered to employers? And I know, Teddy, there was a question posed earlier about cost and how it's arrived at, and that kind of thing. We'll tackle that in a second, but help me with the legal aspect of this if I'm an employer.
Yes, if you're an employer and you work with a place like WellQ, or even Wake Forest Baptist or Novant or Cone Health, or anybody that has that corporate health benefits package, if you will, there are contracts related to that. And so we have contracts, and in that we spell out what we are and what we aren't. And especially, because we have some employers that we work with who have full benefits packages. They have great benefits, medical and otherwise, but they tack on WellQ because they like the environment, they like the multidimensional piece of it, they like the convenience of our location, et cetera. But then there are other companies that they are not able to provide any packages, any benefits at all, but they use WellQ to help their employees see that they do care and to have an outlet for, the routine care that we provide clinically, and then the financial wellness piece. And so in all that stuff has to be worked out, because you can't get yourself wrapped up if, for example, there's a government sponsored program that you're interfering with, or, and if folks who have no insurance, or if they have healthcare through the ACA, or if they have Medicaid or Medicare, for example, there's all kinds of different stipulations you got to watch out for. You can't be seen as inducing them to utilize a specific healthcare system over another, for example. So there's all kinds of things that you have to address. And COVID has really brought a lot of that to light, and will continue to do so. I think companies have learned a lot, and we've learned a lot, and we've helped them learn a lot, I hope. But the bottom line is the partnership is just invaluable.
Yeah.
And Karen, Doug asked the question. I think I know the answer. I'm going to let you answer, because I am a legacy member. Is there a cost for legacy members for their family to participate in the individual or the family WellQ programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Teddy. And thank you, Doug. Yes, WellQ is a membership model. So people join WellQ either through their employer or as an individual or a family. And so, for example, an individual membership, which is a 12-month membership, is $299.
Okay.
And that means that includes the unlimited financial coaching, wellness coaching, routine sick care, biometric screenings, lab tests, all that good stuff. And then for a family, it's $399. So your family may be, Teddy, it may be you and your wife, or it may be Randy and his wife and 17 kids. I'm not real sure, but either way, it's $399. So what a deal that is. And, that includes well child checks, that includes sports physicals, camp physicals, anything the family needs, we provide. And then all of that is tied to how well are you feeling financially? How is your financial well-being? Do you feel financially fragile? Can we help you prepare?
So if Randy's family joins WellQ, you're going to help him get over the challenges he's got, because that man's wore out managing 17 kids and a wife.
Or the second part of the WellCare program, I'm asking for a friend. If not,
but these are, we're joking a little bit about this, And, this doesn't need to be an advertisement for a WellQ or a Legacy, but, these are important ideas. I mean, we only get one of these freaking bodies every, I was going to say every time we get on the earth, we only get one of these bodies. We've got to find different ways to take care of it, both physically, mentally, financially, you name it. And these are just ideas that all of us in a job and unemployed should be considering to help us be, healthier for lots of reasons.
I
Right.
got one for you. I got a question for you. We have Goodwill and other companies have employee assistance programs, EAPs, and they offer a whole host of services, credit counseling to psychology, whatever, to go sit down and talk to somebody about issues, mental, physical abuse issues, just a whole host of things. So thinking of that EAP model, how does that, how do you guys play well with that? Or are you part of that? Or is it a separate thing? Or just, help us dissect what that all means.
Sure, Randy. It's all of the above. In some cases, we work with EAPs. In some cases, for very small businesses, particularly with all the entrepreneurs that we have here in Winston-Salem, they may not have an EAP at all. And so we are able to provide, some of those services. But again, our model is about wellness and prevention more so than, bring us you're sick. We want to get to know you when you're well, so that when you do get sick, we're better prepared, as are you. But we have our lead provider is certified by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So we really focus on those lifestyles and how you as an individual and you as a family unit can impact your overall well-being. And so that's definitely our approach. And when you all are talking about insurance being provided by employers, as you know, vast majority of Americans have insurance through their employer. But with COVID, that a lot of employers were no longer able to provide that. Or, as we all know, lots of people lost their jobs during COVID, whether it be because the business closed, the business had to downsize or whatnot. And so the picture of insurance in terms of medical coverage across our nation is so different than ever before. And, you're seeing a lot of things come out, different ACA plans with the Affordable Care Act, but also like healthcare sharing ministries, for example. A lot of people have learned more about those and understood how cost sharing can help them overall. Typically, those are more of your healthy families, just because a lot of those ministries don't cover pre-existing conditions and they don't cover preventive care. But that's where WellQ can be a partner on all those aspects, because again, it takes all of us to fill the gaps. But all of those pieces of wellness have changed over the last year, and I think it's going to continue to change.
I'm sorry, Karen. I mean, this has really got me thinking for job seekers. We talk about look at your compensation and make sure you're getting the compensation you want. Well, compensation goes way past dollars. And I think that in 2021 and beyond, you should be looking at how clearly, transparently that employer cares about you. And when that employer cares about you enough to include health and financial well-being support beyond insurance, beyond a 401k, beyond the bonuses and the pay, that's the kind of employer that we should rank higher than, that company is going to pay me 10 grand more and going to, eat me up, chew me up, spit me out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder too, we've talked about different kinds of health and in my younger years, I guess I've kind of slacked off here, to be candid, but I used to work out a lot. I mean, a lot. And I was in great physical condition. Of course, you get older and, get a little more slack, and I am what I am. But point being, and question being, gym memberships and that kind of a thing, is that a part of this wellness? Is the physical wellness of having maybe even a discounted rate to join a gym or something to encourage the physical activity?
Well, a lot of employers are providing that as a benefit, maybe a credit or a discount to join a YMCA or a Planet Fitness or something like that. As far as WellQ goes, it's not part of the membership here, but we certainly advocate for that. And when we work with employers, we provide on-site physical activity support as well, whether it be, taking folks out for a walk with one of our providers. So you're walking at lunch and learning, or, providing yoga classes or, a Zumba class, whatever that may be. But physical fitness is definitely part of it. And those, when you look at how companies dealt with COVID and how they balanced the budget and with what benefits they had to cut, a lot of times that was one of the things that had to be cut. Or even, for example, some businesses that have on-site fitness centers, because of the regulations, had to close those down. And so, we're all just trying to feel our way. And I believe, for the things that we don't have here on site at WellQ, we have great referral relationships across the community with all of the healthcare systems and all the community organizations that provide those resources. And again, it's not just physical healthcare, but part of that too is we try to go the extra mile and find for our members where the best value is, whether that be for if you have to go somewhere for imaging, or if you need a prescription, or if you need to go somewhere for, behavioral health counseling, or take your child somewhere for that. Whatever the case may be, that's part of what our model is to go above and beyond and help our members find where they're going to get the best value, but also what's the best fit for them. Because we're all different, and
Now, Randy, I've toured your palatial estate, dude. I know, back when we were doing the lighting, and I know daggone well that you got a gym in the palatial estate.
I do. It's right over there, and it takes up way too much room in my man cave. I do. Hey, question for you. You mentioned that you're not the only game in town. WellQ's not the only one. You mentioned Novant, you Baptist, whatever. You mentioned some other, right? So my question, and we have not only had guests, but we have attendees globally. We've got them certainly across the country, right? So you're sitting here in Winston-Salem, and Teddy is in his palatial estate, and I'm in mine, but we're all here in the Triad. All right. So for workers, whether employed or not, job hunters or workers, or if an employer is watching this, again, we're going to get a lot of people that watch this after the fact, so they can't ask the question now. So if you're sitting somewhere not here in the Triad, are there other entities like yours in communities around the country? If so, how should they Google them? What kind of terminology do you Google? Or, for that matter, could you help somebody who's in Oregon that says, hey, I saw the show and I know I'm not in a Triad, but can you help me out? How wide is your reach? And if I want services somewhere else and you're not able to service me, how do I find some entity who can?
Right. That's a great question, Randy. And, we learned a lot through the pandemic as well, and have started doing a lot more telephonic visits and virtual visits. And so our reach has broadened quite a bit. Currently, the location in the Innovation Quarter is the only physical location of the clinic that we have. But our financial wellness program, those components have grown exponentially over the last year. We're doing all kinds of virtual coaching. We do one-on-one coaching, financial and wellness. We also do small groups, again, virtually, like for like-minded people or people that are at the same point in life. Maybe there's a group of folks that are preparing for retirement within the next 10 years. So we get them together and we have a small group, education and coaching environment. And that's kind of what we would propose for anybody could utilize us for that. But as far as across the country, if you need a physical place, a lot of credit unions are starting to branch out and realize the impact that holistic well-being has on our communities and the role that they can play. WellQ is the only center of its kind in the entire nation that we know of. And we've actually been studied by researchers at Harvard for several years now. Mm-hmm. And we were actually just in a meeting with them fairly recently, and they were talking about across the country trying to help people understand the importance of bundling these dimensions of wellness, if you will, when providing benefits packages, et cetera. And a lot of credit unions are starting to partner with healthcare systems or community organizations to provide similar places. We've had lots of credit unions to reach out to us to learn more about our model. And it may be that they're targeting a little bit of a different population or have a slightly different focus, but they're very innovative. And so we've met with folks from Kentucky, Oregon, Florida, Virginia. Those are just some that come off the top of my head. But there's a lot going on around the country because people are realizing how important it
All right.
is.
So if I'm sitting there in Kansas and waiting for the tornado to come swoop me up, but before it does, I want to be healthy. So what do? Go online, look up the local
Or
The
sorry.
local
Yeah.
healthcare systems all are going to have, community arms and corporate pieces for the small businesses that you can look into. And then the National Credit Union Foundation would also have resources that could point you into the direction of some of the financial wellness pieces that are taking place.
So this point being, I guess the takeaway then is that it extends beyond just the triad. So
Yes, sir.
the services are out there. And if people do want to get in touch, and that, Teddy, maybe you can post Karen's information in the notes. So there's that. In just a moment, we're going to ask you to summarize and give us a few takeaways. But there was a question while Teddy's typing away on that.
Yeah, when you get that question,
The one that Don had about the participation at the exec. Let's throw that one out. Maybe another one.
So Don wants to know, and it's a great question. Often leaders of the company go, well, for our organization to be successful and for us to retain employees more, we need to add these features and solutions, and health and wellness, support might be one of them. But then the CEO drops out. The whole leadership team drops out. Have you noticed in some of the organizations you guys work with, does the management or leadership team stay involved, or do we need to cajole them to stay involved?
In most of the ones we work with, they do stay involved. We have a few that, for whatever reason, it could be family, the composition of their family, they need, something else, or maybe where they live, or, a complex chronic disease that they have specialists that, that just don't sit here at WellQ. But yeah, you're accurate in saying that the more the leadership engages, the more the other folks will follow. You're exactly right. And a lot of companies that we work with give the employees the option. They say, we're willing to pay for this for you. We want you to use it. Don't just check it off a list and not realize we're on the backside paying a lot of money for you to use this. And so what we've also done with those companies is give them reports of the improvements, whether it be physically, financially, from what we can measure, from folks that engage with us, on a deeper level versus folks who maybe never stepped foot in the clinic space or never participate in one of our classes. And it's the gap is huge. Yeah. The more people engage with us and with what the company offers outside of us, much better results.
Cool. Karen, this is good stuff. Thank you for showing up today.
Yeah, let's, I just have one quick question, then I'm going to ask you to summarize. The quick question is this. Teddy has a crystal ball. Teddy, would you display the crystal ball, please?
Well, Randy, I've got to polish it. It's a little bit fuzzy, but there it is.
I know, Karen, I know you weren't necessarily prepared with a crystal ball to, gaze into the future, but if you could, you've heard the old SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, but what do you see as the future for what I'll call your industry? This is kind of a burgeoning thing that's gaining some traction. What are the potholes that you're running into, the hesitancy, and what are you doing about it?
Well, I guess I should preface that with saying I'm answering this from Karen Sigmon Smith's response, not necessarily WellQ or Legacy or anybody else. Okay. But I have a very strong passion to change the healthcare system in our nation to be more about well care, more so than sick care. And I also believe that we have more power within ourselves as an individual, as family units, and as a community of people to make far greater changes and heal more so than we realize. And so I think, let's not start from scratch, but quit basing our decisions on expenses or income or revenue, and let's base it on, population health outcomes. How do we feel? How are we producing? How are we helping one another function on a day-to-day basis in a way that helps us be holistically well? And so I believe that models like WellQ and some of the direct primary care models and other things that are out there are really going to grow over the next decade. I really do. And not just because I sit in one, but telling people what we are and getting them to understand all of the benefits that we offer is difficult because it's too good to be true. And I'm not sure I understand. And so it's difficult to have an elevator speech, but those models are up and coming because people are tired of paying so much for healthcare expenses and then not being prepared when something happens to their family.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm with you, Karen. It's going to keep growing because there's lots of value behind it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're at that point. If you could take a couple minutes and share maybe a few takeaways you'd like people to have. This has been very informative, by the way, and whether you're a job hunter or employed somewhere, whatever, your employer doesn't have to provide this in order for you to have access to it. So anybody who's watching, what they used to say, anyone within the sound of my voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Within the sound of my voice, you too qualify. So anyway, Karen, takeaways, give us a few.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the partnership between employee and employer can't be overstated. And I think if for job seekers, again, just to reiterate, find a company that cares enough to provide these types of benefits, not just a medical insurance package, but holistic wellness to really get you to where you need to be so that you can be the best employee that you can be and so that you can stay with them long term. And from the company's perspective, if you're a small business, entrepreneur, large business, it doesn't matter. It behooves you to provide this because you're going to save money on the bottom line, not only in terms of insurance claims, absenteeism, training, but also just the culture of your workplace is going to be so much more welcoming, and what you produce is going to be so much better, whether it be a service or a good. And so I really think that we need to understand that successful workplace wellness is not a one-time effort, it's a journey. And we're in this together. And so I would encourage job seekers to make sure that that's a part of what they're headed for. And as Teddy mentioned it, it's not just about the compensation and the amount of your paycheck. It's so much deeper than that. And so my ultimate goal would be for all of us just to understand that we are in it together. There are going to be roadblocks along the way. There are going to be curveballs thrown at us, but the more we can prepare financially and physically and socially, mentally, all that good stuff, the better off we're going to be. And I think, our economy needs us to be partners in this.
I'm with you.
Karen Sigmon Smith, thank you for joining us today with WellQ, also a Legacy Federal Credit Union. We appreciate that. Sherry Scott, thank you for setting this up, by the way. She is in the audience and lurking, as it were. Teddy, I know we're short on time, so I'll make it real quick. I'll give you a quick story. Yeah, quick story is this, and it ties in with next week's guest. So how about you do your story first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Well, I'll make my story maybe 5 sentences. I remember working for an employer where I got really sick, and his first message to me when he found out I wasn't going to be at work tomorrow is, when will I be at work? I also remember an employer that I work with, and I got really sick, and I was in the hospital. His first message to me is, dude, what do I need to do to help you and your family? We'll worry about the job later. Now, it's not always that simple, but think about it. Does your employer care about you in all areas of your life, or they just care that you're in your freaking desk in your cubicle?
Yeah, I remember one time I was sick, but I was on vacation, and my employer laughed at me. He said, "Hi, you spent your vacation in bed." So beautiful. But it ties in with the next week's guest. We're going to have two folks, Nathan DeBonio and Jeff Luttrell, in to talk about the turnover tsunami. We're seeing a lot of churn in the marketplace. And so to tie in with Karen's talk today is, if I'm an employer, what can I do to attract good employees? And what can I do to retain the employees that I have? We all know there are people you don't mind losing. Let's face it, in all companies, those C-level performers. But for the great majority of folks, you want to do what you can to keep them because they're productive. So we're going to cover that next week. That'll be our topic, the turnover tsunami. That'll be on Wednesday, the 11th of August, and we kick it off at 11:55. We hope you'll join us. And if you're so inclined, feel free to offer your comments and questions. So Teddy, I'll leave it back to you to wrap it up and take us home.
Invite a guest. I mean, you know, absolutely invite a guest. We want and let Randy and I know what other topics that you think would be beneficial to you and others, predominantly in job search, but even beyond that. Thank you very much for showing up. We'll see everybody next week. Take care.
All right. Be good. See you.
Bye, everybody.